Okay, hopefully we're streaming.
No notification yet.
Okay.
Get ready. Get set. It's the Project Ion Podcast with Kevin, Andy, Jim, and Kyle, bringing you opinions on life from a basement in northwest Iowa.
Oh, come on.
I really don't think that a president can do much about that issue.
You are fake news.
Well, let's say it's a guy named Seats.
I make you scary.
Man, this shit whack, man.
What are you gonna do with Cam?
I want to save him until he goes through puberty. And
How dare you?
Project Ion, June 13th. A beautiful Saturday.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Hope you all got to get out and enjoy it.
Yeah. Did you hit the bike trails or anything today, Kevy?
Too windy for us for that, but we went down to the park.
Oh, nice.
And, watched all the rides not move.
So Arnold's Park is closed currently, right? Or have they not
Yep.
start? Okay.
It is closed. You can't even get in the thing to walk around, like you usually can. Most of the stores are open. The restaurants are open, little shops down there. That's good to go. The beaches are packed. It's just you can't ride any rides.
So yeah, I don't. Is there a nexus between that and keeping the virus down? Though, I mean, like, my understanding was that like UV light was pretty potent as far as the virus goes, and a lot of the
just
parks
being
outside. Yeah,
I'm sure they just want to appear on the right side of the issue.
yeah, I get that, but whatever.
I
Need to pump your veins full of UV light.
Yep. So, are we not streaming as far as you guys can tell, or
I haven't seen anything.
doesn't appear to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the main page and I don't see anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, clearly we have lost our streaming privileges or something.
We pissed off somebody.
Yeah. So, that's all right. We can still upload the old-fashioned way. So, so it
crazy.
goes. Yeah.
Sometime one of us should just hop on our YouTube account and just see if we can go live. I assume you're doing this through OBS.
Yep. I am. Yep.
Just see if you can get on the page and do it kind of manually that way.
Right. And I don't know if I need to change some stuff in OBS or something. Like, I thought of that last time when we got kicked off was, okay, well, what if I change the name of the stream or something? Like, maybe it blocked that, but that didn't seem to work.
Radar.
Yeah, I think we're just, we've been pegged as problematic. Maybe that's the right word, huh?
It's controversial.
Yeah. Well, I see on your list of stuff, your Vin, you got some Minneapolis police stuff. So, do you want to just dive right into that?
It's been a week, man. I can't keep up with it all.
Yep. We'll try this one out first.
Set the stage for this. This is
To take responsibility.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this was Jacob Fry. Is that how you say his last name?
mhm.
He's the mayor of Minneapolis. And, yeah, he, I guess, went into the lion's den here, so to speak. And give him credit for that, at least, because he's kind of persona non grata.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is the epitome of a walk of shame right here. This is quite the video.
Yeah, I've
And
seen.
am I the only one who thinks he looks like he's 16 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Well,
How is this guy mayor?
yeah, I don't know. Did you guys see the clip of him doing like the Cupid shuffle or whatever it was? With, I think it was like a block party or something a year or two ago. He's
No.
wearing like insanely tight skinny jeans and like is doing the
God.
ankle roll to where they're like capri length pants. not even like regular pants. They're like they come down to mid shin, I would say.
Oh. Only in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever. That's the beauty of the
Yeah.
democratic process, right? You can elect whoever you want and then reap the results.
I've been coming to grips with my own brokenness in this situation, my own failures, my own shortcomings, and I know there needs to be deep-seated structural reform in terms of how the department operates. The systemically racist system needs to be revamped. The police union needs to be put in its place. We need to make sure that everything from the union contract to the way that
Fist
the
in the air.
arbitration functions to the way that our officers and the culture in the department behaves, it all needs to change.
Jacob Fry, we have a yes or no question for you. Hey! Hey, fist up, y'all. Fist up. Jacob Fry, we have a yes or no question for you. Yes or no, will you commit to defunding Minneapolis Police Department? What did I say? We don't want no more police. Is that clear? We don't want people with guns floating around in our community, shooting us down. You have an answer? It is a yes or a no. It is a yes or a no. Will you defund the Minneapolis Police Department? All right, be quiet, y'all. Be quiet, because it's important that we actually hear this. It's important that we hear this, because if y'all don't know, he's up for re-election next year.
There it is.
Yeah, what were you saying?
I said there it is.
Okay.
There's the crux of the matter.
All right.
No one in this entire mob knows that he's up for re-election besides her.
It's a yes or a no. Are you committed to defunding the police? That's where we are. Right?
God. What an awful
He's
position.
up for re-election next year.
What the heck?
And if he says no, guess what the fuck we gonna do next year? What'd you say?
I do not support the full abolition of police.
All right, get the fuck out of here. Go, get out of here. Go home, Jacob, go home. 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 Go home, Jacob.
So, is there anything else juicy in this clip, Kevin?
That's the crux of it.
Okay.
Well, this is just like a movie. I mean, it's, oh my God.
Well, so the question that was posed to him was, are you committed, yes or no, to defunding the police? And then his answer was, I do not support the full abolition of the police department.
Right.
So, I mean, his answer had a little more nuance to it. Does defund the police mean get rid of the police altogether, or does it mean, reduce the budget? What? That's never been made clear to me.
I think to the crowd, the masses there, yeah, it does mean defunding, dismantling, overhauling to the point where it's pretty much unrecognizable. I would guess, I would assume.
And has there, to your knowledge, been a proposal for what is going to be in place of the police, if anything, or?
So if you go back to the Google spreadsheet,
Yep.
Or the Google Doc, one of these, the last one there is an article, because this was just recently, they actually voted, and that apparently is going to go through. So this article, I think, kind of outlines in one of the sidebars, like what it's going to look like. If you scroll down a little ways, unanimously votes to abolish its police.
Yeah.
Isn't their entire city council like women and then one transgender or something?
Do I need to disable my ad blocker or something? Or
yeah, click on that ad block. Yeah, sorry. Yep, go to the three dots there.
Oh yeah.
And the top one. Can you click on that?
Yeah.
Click on the blue button there, blue
Right
circle,
here. Yeah.
refresh.
Alrighty, sir.
This is a horrible website. Like more than half of it is ads.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay,
This is
scroll
why
down.
We have ad blockers. Yeah, keep going. By the way, SpongeBob is gay. If you see that.
Yeah,
picture.
that's what I hear. It's trending now.
Why would there be a sexual orientation for SpongeBob?
Well, don't sponges reproduce?
Are they asexual or?
Yeah. Peripera.
Oh, sorry, this is like an unusable website.
Yeah, I'm getting beat up here with the ads. Yeah. It's entertaining in and of
There
itself.
it is. There it is, right there.
Okay.
What Minneapolis would look like without a police department.
In Minneapolis, the council voted for the community-led replacement Friday as members.
Just to the right of that.
Okay. There is no short-term plan to scrap the Minneapolis Police Department. The council have stated a year-long process to find recommendations for what will replace it. The replacement set to be community-led public safety system. Redirect funds from the department and channel them into community services aimed at preventing crime. Money could be redirected to mental health services, social services, job programs, and arts groups.
Arts groups. Yeah.
Throw up in my mouth.
Jobs such as traffic stops, overdose call-outs, mental health calls may be taken away from officers.
So I got to say that part of that makes sense because, like, if you've got cops out there dealing with homeless people where the issue is mental illness as opposed to, like, just outright criminal activity, like, the cops aren't equipped to handle psychology and psychiatry and mental illness. Like, they should be supplemented with people who are trained in those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But to outright replace it.
I don't think that's what these people want, though. I think these people want no police at all, no matter, like, no one in uniform.
What do you mean by these people, Kyle?
BLMs.
The city of Minneapolis, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this. So I know we were talking about, maybe it wasn't with you guys, but in one of the text groups I'm in, I was talking about insurance damages from the rioting and the looting and everything.
Can I interrupt you and have you move the tab
Oh, sure.
off of this horse thing? Horse love? Like, just, yeah,
We
go
can
back
click
there.
off the, how about we just give up on that website?
That sounds good to me.
That was beating us up pretty bad. So anyways, I was saying, I was talking about, like, all the damage and then all the insurance claims, and the thing that always crosses my mind when there's widespread damage in an area is, okay, what does that do to the insurers, the insurance company's solvency? And then what does that mean for premiums going forward? Well, I was thinking, okay, well, if these insurance companies get rung up hard enough in, like, every major city in the continental United States, then I was thinking, okay, well, they'll probably start adding peaceful protest riders and stuff to their policies and, tack on the premiums and everything. But now, imagine if you were an insurance company and you were going to write a homeowner's policy for somebody where there was no police.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's that going to do to premiums if, there's that no immediate threat of consequence that the police create? If you're a burglar or a robber or somebody like that would be looking to commit crime. I'm not, you could just leave it at that. But, I mean, it'd be an easy target for anybody that's looking to take advantage of people in a vulnerable position. Obviously, you'd go to the place where there's no police. So it's stuff like that that's the kind of unforeseen consequence of something like, some policy measure like this that I don't think people are taking into consideration.
Yeah, it's just asinine. I mean, you're going to get people, we talked about this earlier, just flocking to the suburbs where they have their own police department. And you're going to have the housing market just, I mean, it's going to be just wild. That I would imagine there's a whole lot more to come out of this, but if they're saying abolish the police, and let's just say they have 50% less police force in Minneapolis, you're still going to see that influx of people in the suburbs, and your housing costs are going to go through the roof.
Well, and then to that point, if let's say there is a constituency that, assuming that the police force has been neutered to the extent where it's ineffective or, it doesn't exist, as a shell of its former self or something. that what we just read through to me was kind of a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I wasn't really sure that I wasn't really clear on what it was actually going to look like when it was all done. But okay, like let's say you're somebody that wants to leave Minneapolis. What's that going to do to your house price when you try to sell if nobody wants to move in? So you lose your ass when you try to sell the place. And then, if you want to still live in the Twin Cities general area, then like Kyle suggests, if there's a whole lot of buyers and the same amount of demand, simple economics for, the housing market, it'll be even tougher to buy. And then for those that want to leave, they're going to get pummeled when they go to sell. So that's another problem.
I think to add to that and to add to the argument to move out of the city, we've seen during these COVID times that people don't need to be physically together anymore. Like cities made sense at one time when we didn't have the means to communicate with each other other than being in the same proximity. But with the interwebs, we can do that from wherever. And there's just really no good reason to be in a city anymore, in my mind.
Yeah. That's a good point too. Maybe the exodus will take a different form. Maybe it won't be they'll stay in the same kind of general geographic area, but those that want to leave will do like you suggest and, pick somewhere
Starts
else
at the
to
top
live.
though. Those CEOs are going to have to okay their employees leaving the office and working from home and stuff. But,
yeah, that's true. And if your company is old school, then they may have problems with that. But I think that, again, this COVID stuff has kind of forced people to realize that when done correctly, remote working can work. And it can work even better than having a physical office due to the lack of overhead. And
remote learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just click on a YouTube video and there's your class for the day.
Yep. That's how it works.
Oh, funny.
I know it is.
Have other jurisdictions, to your knowledge, made police reform proposals? I know Iowa passed some kind of a reform bill, I think, that pretty much flew through the legislature, and then Kim Reynolds signed it.
Yeah, what was that about? Was that something to do with chokeholds, or am I way off base?
Oh, gosh. I read through it, but for whatever reason, or I read through an article about it, but it's not really coming to me. But I think, as I recall, I didn't see anything in there that I had a major problem with, at least from the bullet point things. I think maybe chokeholds was one of it. Maybe I could find it quick, and that way we wouldn't have to speculate, but...
I did see the video, the live feed of her signing something with a very diverse crowd standing behind her.
Yeah, no social distancing.
Exactly.
Well, this is CNN, so I don't know, Kyle, if you'll trust it or not, but...
We got a big red heading at the top. There must be some breaking news.
Oh, yeah, there was another... officer involved.
I
shooting.
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that video. The dude took the cop's taser from him or something like that, and I don't know if he was running away or whatever. I don't even know. I don't know. I shouldn't speculate, but I know the dude had the cops taser, and I think they just popped him then.
Mm-hmm.
But
what are you supposed to do? I mean, crying out loud.
Ask him politely.
Yeah, I guess.
Back your taser.
Okay.
Well, you at that point you just got to call up the Citizens Auxiliary Police or whatever in Seattle and have them come take care of it.
With helmets.
So here it says the bill allows the Iowa Attorney General to prosecute a criminal offense committed by an officer if their actions result in the death of another. The bill also mandates yearly anti-bias and de-escalation training for law enforcement. So, I mean, at least on its face, I don't see where that was necessarily a bad thing anywhere.
I guess not, except for the time sink and waste of time that is anti-bias training.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a toothless thing meant to just appease people, if that's the practical effect, I guess, then yeah, it is silly to waste time on it.
In tax dollars.
Yep, but yep, I don't know. I mean, it's flew through the
Look at those arms
legislature.
raised.
Yep.
It looks wildly suspicious to me.
How brave.
So at least Iowa's on the cutting edge of, actually putting reforms into practice here. So we're not just smoke and mirrors here in Iowa. Even Republican Governor Kim Reynolds.
Yeah, female, by the way.
Female Republican.
I don't think people give us enough credit for that.
Right? Okay. Oh, yeah. Twitter. So why don't we hear... Oh, you want to do the Twitter one quick?
That one's kind of interesting because it was a CNN clip, and the host flat out asks this person who's advocating abolishing the police force what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's is that the city council chairperson or whatever?
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's a transgender.
So we're back to
woman.
Minneapolis now, right? Minneapolis City Council dismantle the police department.
We have a state action against our police department, which gives us legal mechanisms in the very short term. There's lessons from all over the country, all over the world that we're looking to take immediate steps while we work toward building the systems that we would need to imagine that future.
Do you understand that the word dismantle or police free also makes some people nervous? For instance, what if in the middle of the night my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system...
So it's privileged to call the police.
Yeah. And there's no answer here. I mean,
so does that mean that if you're black and you dial 911, it's just a dial tone or something? Is that the message?
Clearly.
God.
I mean, that can't.
I can tell you one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'll tell you that this. I mean, if this were to take hold, say nationwide or something, or more than just Minneapolis, gun sales are going to go through the roof. Just people
they already
wanting
are.
Protection. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that can't be a serious argument that, calling the police only works for certain people. I mean, it's so insane. I can't even begin to address it. Really? The police calling the police is a point of privilege?
I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, that's bad.
What are we talking about here?
I wish the anchor had some balls and could push her on it, because I think the interview just kind of ends and she just accepts it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what she says here. I'm going to back this up a little bit to try to hear that again.
A place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done. And so we have a
Okay. So I think I kind of understand what she's saying, that like, if you accept the presupposition that it's, open season for certain people, and then you call the police, and what's that mean? You're just going to get shot or arrested or something if you're legitimately being, burglarized or robbed or something like that, and you need help from the police.
That's still not even close to an argument against for abolishing the police.
Here's how I see it. Like, okay, yeah, maybe there's some people who calling the cops it doesn't work out that great for, but you have this rung that's set up here with people that like it does work, and if you're in trouble, you call the cops, you get it fixed. What she wants to do is take that bar and lower it down here so that it doesn't work for anyone, instead of raising the bar so that it does work for more people.
Yeah, I mean, it's privileged.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I guess I don't even accept her basic premises though for the, for her position here. So it's hard for me to listen to anything else. Well, I saw on your list here, Vin, that you had the union boss. Was this? Okay.
Yeah, that's just kind of a hoorah to the cops.
Okay. Was this the one where they talk about how many police interactions there are in a year's time, or okay?
Yeah,
because maybe that would give a little additional context to this, who this works for thing, and who's got privilege and stuff.
I retire. And that's all this isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it, and so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs, and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive.
So 375 million interactions, is that annually or ever? I mean, that's got to be annual, because they couldn't
I would say.
Yeah. And I guess that would, in fairness, that would probably include like every traffic stop and every single, hey, what are you doing over there situation and stuff like that. But still, I mean, with that, okay, you take that number and then you've got your other number of times when it ends in a dead body or something like that, and then figure out a percentage. I mean,
oh God, it's less. I mean, it's got to be less than, I don't know. You can't even put a number on it.
Right. Be a tiny fraction of a percent. So, and to be fair, that's probably not a good way to examine it.
Right.
But still, I mean, I think there's value in, adding a little perspective here in terms of how we frame this whole discussion and, who we're assigning blame to and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it goes back to, I think I brought this up last time, which is we're putting all this effort and energy in the rioting and the protests and the marches and the Facebooks and the Twitters on this small piece of the problem. Like, if you actually want to look at people dying and the cause of that, you have to look at the black on black crime and the gang violence. That's where the majority of the bodies are showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And to basically just ignore that, sweep that under the rug so we can focus on the most outrageous, egregious, violent events between cops and minorities. Like, what are we really doing here?
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that this stuff, I mean, so is your argument kind of that things are getting cherry picked and then offering up as here's indicative of like a huge problem, that we've got all this, racist cop and
well, my pessimistic thought on it is so Al Sharpton can make money when this stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's like the racism industrial complex, huh?
You have to have an oppressed people in order for somebody of the same ethnicity to profit off of. I mean, if there was no I don't know, like poverty in the black community, then people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson wouldn't have a job, wouldn't have a paycheck.
Well, so yeah, let's explore that thought a little bit. So, I mean, I don't know if you'd find it, maybe you would, I guess, but I don't know. I can't name anybody, at least, who would make the argument that 2020 is, say, akin to 1850 or, like the Jim Crow South or something, where you have all these overt, very obvious examples of, racist policy or things that would, be clear violations of equal protection and, actual sanctioned slavery and that sort of thing. I don't think anybody in good faith would make the argument that things are not better in 2020 than it was at that time. Would you guys agree with me there, or?
I know one person who would disagree. His name is Jesse Lee Peterson, but I think most sane people would agree with what you just said. Yes, things are getting better and have gotten better.
Yep.
Not perfect, but better for sure.
So, I mean, if you grant that things have improved, then, the total distance between bad and acceptable has shrank then, if things have improved. So the area that we're dealing with in terms of, like areas to fix and that the gap there would necessarily be smaller then, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like this logarithmic curve that, like, the closer you get to the end of that curve, the more effort you have to put in to increase progress by a tiny amount.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, right, that's another good way to think about it. But I guess, I mean, it makes me think that if you have less of a footing to make in terms of, like, making your argument about where this fix needs to happen and that fix needs to happen, then wouldn't you have to kind of overblow that, for lack of a better word, in order to sell your point? Because, I mean, if like a Sharpton or somebody would get up and say, well, I mean, we're like 98% the way there, who would listen to him anymore? So
right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a great point. Otherwise, what do they have to talk about if they don't magnify and, like, say, overblow, for lack of a better term, anything that happens, and completely ignore the travesties and the tragedies on the other side? Say, I don't know, a white cop killed by a black officer, or a black officer killed a black guy.
Or completely ignore what happens in Chicago every weekend.
Yes, that too.
I mean, 21 deaths last weekend, black on black gunshot violence.
Yep.
1 week, 2 days. I mean, that's crazy.
That, in my mind, is proof that they don't actually care. Like, if they actually cared, they would be focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you don't only hear this stuff out of, like, fragilely white people like the three of us, I guess, right? It's, I mean, I personally, I subscribe to several people on YouTube, black YouTubers, that say the exact same things that we're talking about right now. And they're numerous. So I don't feel like it's just something that comes out of white people only. There's certainly a constituency that sees the forest through the trees, so to speak.
Well, that's good. And maybe, that part of the Democratic Party, the old Democratic Party, is starting to wake up and realizing, like, holy crap, we had 8 years of a half-black president. Are we any better off now? Mm-hmm. Or are things getting worse? Like, what did we had control for that long? Are we any better off for that? It's time to take a hard look and, maybe decide that if it's, not working out, time to try something new. And I think that's what we got with Trump.
Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not what we do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying us. Well, you know what, guys? I'm proud to be a cop. And I'm going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say. This isn't staying.
So I guess this just sort of summarizes the I stand with the blue position, maybe, huh? Or
another like a view of the other side of it.
Sure. Well, his point about the overall police interactions thing was really interesting. I sent Kyle the Harvard study about police violence. Have you seen that, Kevin?
No.
I should email that to you too. Yeah, it was really interesting. They did Harvard did a study on violent police interaction, and I did my best to understand kind of what they were arguing, but when it came to fatal police shootings, they found no racial, no racial discrimination, either in the data or when they tried to account for like situational factors, like resisting arrest or is this in the context of a violent crime allegation or something like that. So,
right.
Yeah. And then when it came down to like non-lethal police force, they did find a racial discrepancy for that. If you were black or brown, you had a higher percentage chance of having some level of police force used against you, which I think could range from, the officer putting hands on you to, being put up against a wall or cuffed or thrown in the squad car or whatever it might be. All the way on up to lethal. But my understanding was that when they accounted for, the situational variables, that discrepancy started to shrink. But it didn't fully explain. They didn't fully explain the difference, I guess, was their position. So
and you can do all the studies you want, and like, yes, we certainly, I'm sure the police force has work to do, but ultimately, like, if you want to talk about racial discrimination, you're having to get inside of somebody's head and guess why they're doing what they're doing, unless they overtly state, using words, I'm
right.
killing you because you're black or whatever. But we're assuming, like, you can even make the argument, and this would be a question I have for you guys, like, we've all just assumed that Floyd was the target of a racial discrimination. Was he really? We don't know. Did that cop hate black people?
Yeah, I'm not sure we can. I don't know if there's enough evidence to indicate, in that specific instance that it was racially motivated. It's hard to. Yeah, you're exactly right. We can't pull out the person's intent from the camera footage alone. At least, we can't totally get in their headspace. At least we can infer everything that we possibly can from the physical manifestations, but it's a tough question.
Certainly, to justify all the reaction to it. I would want to be sure that cop did what he did because of race before I went out and protested. And
yeah, but it's so easy. It's so easy just to chalk it up to racism, and especially with the climate we're in today, where you're under quarantine for 2 weeks, 2 months, and you're just ready to explode, and then this happens, and then that's your ignition.
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All for free TV.
Yep. Well, so I mean, this Harvard study argued kind of the big takeaway point that I thought was interesting from it is they sort of made the argument that cops it's better this discrepancy. You know, if you were a little more likely to, if you were black or brown or something, to have some force be used against you, that was better chalked up to not racism necessarily, but that the cops are just sort of utility maximizers, meaning that they are, they have a job to do. And, if somebody's irate or something like that, they're just looking to get the person subdued in the squad car or whatever with the least amount of effort,
Especially if you're in the hood, say, in a very hostile environment where you have people around you where you don't know what they're going to do. You want to get that situation under control as quickly as possible. And the way to do that isn't to calmly talk to the person. It's to lay hands on them and get it under control.
Yep. And I mean, so let me ask you guys, are you both are against excessive police force where it can be demonstrated it's, too much or over and above, generally speaking?
I feel there's the 99.9% chance that if you obey commands, do as the officer's asking, you're not going to have any issues.
Right. But let's use a hypothetical to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So if you're like a 75-year-old man and you stroll up to a bunch of police and then you just get shoved over and, you start bleeding out of the back of your head.
Allegedly.
Total hoax.
No, seriously though, like we all can imagine a situation where a cop gets drunk on power or something and, beats somebody up. I don't think you'd find anybody that would be in support of that. And,
right.
I mean, no reasonable person is going to say, yeah, I'm for police brutality. So when it comes to reforms and additional accountability and so forth for police, I'm all for it. Like one of the biggest things I think has made a huge difference since the Ferguson episode is the body cams. There's so much body cam footage now. Yep. And the nice thing about that is it makes everybody accountable. It makes the officer accountable. It also gets the actions of the perpetrator or alleged perpetrator. If those body cams are always on and rolling whenever there's an interaction, we can see, was the person resisting arrest? Okay, fine. If they weren't, if they were complying and the cop was, going crazy or something like that, then we know the answer to that too. So.
Yep.
And, the cops are human. I mean, they're not, they go through training, of course, that we don't have, but at the end of the day, they're human beings and they have to, for example, walk up to a car that was speeding, pull that car over, and they have no idea what's in that car, what the mental state of the person is. They have no idea. So I sympathize with them as far as that goes, plus the fact they aren't paid a whole heck of a lot.
Not considering the risk associated with the job.
Exactly.
It's amazing that people are willing to do it. That's another whole concern that I have is the more under attack police feel generally, it's like who is going to apply for the job and, come out and say, okay, yeah, I can't wait to be a cop,
Yeah, you're going to lose all the experienced ones and you're going to end up with even worse situations than what have already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know what the educational requirements are to just be a regular beat cop?
I think it's 2 years and then a couple of years of training, maybe.
I don't know the answer to that. I guess I guess from my if I had to venture to guess, I think a lot of guys that want to decide, okay, I want to be a police officer to start with, they'll go maybe do some college and do like a criminal justice major. And whether or not they do an associate's or a bachelor's, I guess I don't know the answer to that, but I think maybe associates. But then I suppose it's just off to the police academy or something, right?
Yeah,
and then
I suppose.
you're pretty much up and running.
Because 2 years, man, that does not seem like a lot of time, to.
Well, and no doubt it's a job where you pick up a lot of what you need just by doing ride-alongs and, working with a experienced officer and that sort of thing.
In the area that you're going to be working
right.
in particular.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, being a cop in like Wallingford versus Minneapolis would be worlds apart, huh?
Yeah, where you know the guy's name.
Yep.
Joe down in the corner, as opposed to Billy Bob down in the hood with a do-rag.
Well, have we beaten this horse to death? Do you want to move on to...
so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the abolishment of the police force, but
yeah,
man, it's wild.
I'll tell you what, it'll be a cold day in hell before the Esterville PD gets abolished or defunded or anything like that.
Oh, good.
I don't know about Lake.
We don't have crime over there. We don't have crimes over here.
Yeah, that's right. You just have people outside of Walmart waiting to rob your car.
Out of towners, no doubt.
Well, alrighty. We'll move on to some social distancing here.
Oh, this is, just interesting.
Okay.
It's just social distancing.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So we've got shoulder to shoulder. Is this a street or I assume probably?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be like 50,000 people.
Yes.
I mean, that'd fill up a football stadium, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet every one of them has a mask on.
Yeah. But you can't have a MAGA rally because COVID.
Like, don't people see the outrageous hypocrisy in that?
I really haven't heard too much other than they're going to reschedule his most recent rally because of Juneteenth.
Because of the racism there?
Yeah. Other than that, I haven't heard too much backlash from the social distancing standpoint just because of these images. So it'll be, I don't know, when it actually happens, it'll be interesting to see what Twitter's like.
So
there was a memo. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was going to say just so in this vein of thinking here, I saw a clip recently where a bunch of nurses had come out of the hospital in their scrubs and stuff and were sitting there clapping for the protesters walking by, and I'm thinking, okay, aren't you the same people who were shaming everybody for, having a N95 stockpile in their house or for, saying, screw you, I want to go buy a sandwich from a restaurant or something. And, yeah.
Yep.
But now suddenly when the context changes, when it's about, racial discrimination or Black Lives Matter, then I guess the virus transmissibility rules fly out the window. Is that the paradigm?
There was a memo that a bunch of health professionals signed.
Heroes.
Yeah, heroes regarding how it's okay, and racism has gone back a long ways before COVID-19 and has caused a lot more damage than coronavirus. So it's okay to get out there and protest in the name of
oh my god
anti-racism. I was trying to find the letter. It's just some news websites talking about it, but it's giving a pass to protest.
And was that the thing that was signed by students and they had the secretarial staff signing the thing and it had this huge list of signatures. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's like every medical person ever, signed this thing. And when you got down to brass tacks, they just, were grabbing people off the sidewalk and getting them to sign the thing.
Over 1,000 health professionals sign a letter saying Don't shut down protests using coronavirus concerns as an excuse.
God, this is so hard to get through. It's like,
Well, I mean, it is. It's utterly perplexing. Don't people see how hypocritical it is?
yeah.
Because I know we can pull up a bunch of clips of the, AR-15 guys yelling in Michigan at the state capitol or something. I'm sure we can find like Don Lemon or Cuomo or somebody like that wringing hands, from their basement bunker or whatever. Oh boy, this is a terrible. How are these people are going to spread the virus? And now you flip the script a little bit, and suddenly it's you bet, take after it. I don't.
If it's for a good cause.
We're one of the good people, so we're not going to criticize it.
You'll get the good kind of corona.
If it's not abundantly clear to anybody watching that it isn't all about politics at this point, I mean,
oh man,
they know. Holy cow!
Then it should be. What I mean, what happened? Did you hit your head or something? I mean, seriously.
Who's heard of Anthony Fauci in the last 2 weeks? 2 or 3 weeks. I mean,
What happened to him?
Yeah, whereas he was our Lord and Savior a month and a half ago.
So, yeah, the only thing I heard out of Pope Fauci was, I guess the World Health Organization had some kind of a press release here recently where they said basically that there'd been a couple of studies that had indicated that asymptomatic transfer of coronavirus was a rare occurrence. And then Pope Fauci got on CNN like the next day or something and was like, no, we don't have any evidence of that. We're going to walk it back and blah, blah, blah. And then the same girl from the WHO said, well, this happened and that happened and this is what I meant and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, what?
This is the WHO. They can't get it right. They have to walk it back.
So if they have to walk back stuff, I mean, do they deserve a bunch of money from the United States?
Well, they're not getting it anymore.
Well, that was the argument. I know that was used against Trump. Decided to cut him off or something, didn't he? Can't give it to you book and verse, I guess, but that was the gist of it at least. And the argument was, well, look, they said you don't need to wear a mask, and then they said you do. Oh, the coronavirus isn't a problem. Oh, now it is. Asymptomatic transfer is a rare occurrence. Now, actually, that's not what we mean. It's like
2 million dead.
How much betrayal can we take?
Yeah. Sorry, I wish Trump would just come out and say, we've been duped. I've been duped. Let's move on. I mean, let's get this thing right now and move on.
Yeah. We tried to follow the advice from the people who said they were in charge and seemed to know things.
Yep. The experts.
The experts, yes. It was just an epic fail. And, these are the results.
Yep.
Well, and that's, so much of the issue with me is there seems to be such a lack of just simple, concise information about this that's consistent at all. Now, I know the science people would probably argue, well, that's how we learn. It's a new virus. We're going to obviously learn new things or whatever as we go along. But some of the flip-flopping has been like so foundational for what we have based our decisions off of that it's just too much. I mean, no, you don't need a mask. Actually, you do.
Yeah.
Shut down every business. Like if their original, we talked about this before, if the original models were correct and those are the actual numbers we were dealing with, then we probably should be shutting things down, canceling school, everybody wear a mask, only one person goes out of the house for food and doctor, whatever, medicine. But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have to be more sure of the numbers and the models before we take these wild actions based on faulty data.
Yeah, I could see the numbers being I don't want to say detrimental, but used as ammo against Trump here come November, because November we'd almost be at a year since, 9 months, I guess, since the coronavirus came out. And, by then we'll probably have 200,000, probably, I don't know, 150,000 maybe, deaths attributed to coronavirus. And then they'll use that number against him in his campaign. But then people won't think about, well, that's almost a full year since this came out. And they won't think to compare that to numbers like flu or car accidents or heart disease or anything like that. They'll just see this big old number, 150,000, 200,000 dead, whether or not that's even attributed to coronavirus or not. In reality, I don't know. I guess I could just see that as fuel or ammo against Trump.
Of course. And it would have been used. It would have been used against him if the number was 200,000 or 2,000. Like, they'll find some way to use it against him.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that, it's obvious by now that coronavirus deaths are being attributed to people who die of car accidents.
Yeah.
There's no surprise there.
That's kind of what I meant. Like, come November, maybe we see 150,000, 200,000 dead from quote unquote coronavirus. And then during the same span or period of time, 300,000 people have died from car accidents or whatever. I don't know.
Again, it's like, where's the outrage? Like, why are we directing all of our energy over here when over here really is the problem?
Right.
Because it's easy, I guess, and it makes money.
Well, I think this is Trump's fault narrative has already taken place, because I definitely recall hearing some news coverage that was like, had we started a lockdown or social distancing 2 weeks earlier, then the case spread would have been reduced by X percentage, and it would have, there'd be only this many deaths instead of blankety blank. And so, I think they're already leveraging this against the Trump administration. Now, how you wouldn't refer to that as anything besides Monday morning quarterbacking, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because, my God, what was known at the time when the decisions were made? That's the standard that you need to judge somebody by, not with the benefit of months of hindsight and so forth. And, and hopefully the American public is sharp enough to sift through all of that, but we'll see, I guess.
I hope so. We were watching TV the other night, and it was another one of those corporate BS commercials where it's like CEOs on Zoom calls saying, "We're here for you. We care. We support our communities." They had the CEO of Philip Morris on saying, "We care about our customers." Philip Morris.
Corporate stoogery, huh?
Oh my goodness. For tobacco, for cigarettes.
So, should we move on to this tweet here?
Yeah.
Sure. Or was this the same thing I looked
I
at?
think this is more cut.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Oh, no.
Mass looting at Walmart, huh? Okay.
Remember, it only takes one to start a fire. That's what we learned the other podcast.
Yeah, that was an interesting argument. Okay, well, here we have a guy whose eyebrows look like this cop from St. Paul, so therefore the riots were started by this guy who's actually, the reasoning there didn't make any sense to me.
I'm surprised we entertained that for as long as we did, to be honest.
Yeah. Fair. don't let your lying eyes fool you here, fellas, because clearly it's all peaceful.
Yeah.
From a completely, even if I was trying to come at this from a completely neutral standpoint, there's nowhere in my morality where I can see that that's justified. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just completely fundamentally, it's hard to even find the right words. It's insane for me to even try and understand the argument where that's okay. You know, like, we all know the mutual friend that we have who posts things on Facebook that tries to justify this sort of behavior. And I feel sorry that somebody is that far down the rabbit hole where they can actually believe and justify that, you know, those actions are okay.
What are some of the arguments?
It's like, what was one where you can replace merchandise, but you can't replace a life.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But even then, that still doesn't justify immoral behavior.
Yeah. Well, I think I think the headspace that you need to get into to sort of see the rationale here would be like, if your worldview was that, you know, every problem in my life that I have can be attributed to, you know, this form of, this kind of oppression or something. And, every shortcoming I have, every manifestation that's negative in my life. And then to have that concept kind of reinforced all the time from everybody that you talk to and all the people that are influential in your life and everything, to the point where it almost takes on like a religious kind of like a faith element almost, to where it's, to challenge that idea is so kind of fundamentally jarring to your whole worldview and everything that it would inspire kind of an emotional reaction out of somebody. Like, what do you mean my God isn't real? That sort of line of reasoning. And so if you kind of have that worldview where everything is sort of closing in on you and keeping you down and all of that, then yeah, I could see getting to the point where it's like, well, so what if I go steal a TV? I mean, but therein is the problem, because it's the litigation needs to be over whether or not the premise is actually true, the presupposition there, and I think we're probably all on the same page here on this podcast, but I'd be real curious to see somebody defend it.
Yeah, I've heard what you said, Kyle, about like you can replace merchandise, you can't replace a life. And I've heard the perspective where these people are just beaten down and they have nothing, so they're going to make the most of an opportunity to seize it and take what they can. I don't know. I haven't heard any real good, compelling arguments for it.
Well, it's not reasonable because there's no argument there to make. I mean, it's just blatant.
Or is that our privilege talking?
Yeah.
No, it's common sense.
Old Plan Kyle is back at it again. Oh, yeah. Well, it is, and probably fair to say that we can't put ourselves in the shoes of anybody else necessarily.
Doesn't matter. In what world is that okay?
Well, and I hear that it sort of boils down to, do you respect property rights or not? And I guess if you don't, then fine, but say so. I don't know. I mean, like,
or I don't know. Every one of those people should be arrested and charged.
Yep.
Whether it happens or not, I don't know. Probably won't. But
well, that's the hell of a situation like that. It's the overall overarching effect of a whole lot of individual decisions to break the law, and
And here's what's been surprising to me about kind of the left's perspective on this, which is me as a guy on the right. I'm with Trump and want to restore law and order and get this situation squashed. Like, this should not be happening in the United States of America. So I'm of the perspective that call in the National Guard, call in the military. If it's even just to provide a presence of some semblance of control. We got into this on the last show too, which is there's no control there. There's nobody in authority reigning over that situation. It's mob rule. And so if it takes the military coming in to establish that sense of authority, then so be it. Whether or not they don't do anything at all, they just stand there and look imposing. At least it's something there. I think the left is under the impression that, well, it's just going to be an all-out war zone if the military is called in, because that's what they're trained to do. I wouldn't want that, of course, but there's got to be something there. Yeah, that would squash it real fast.
Are you privy to, it says maybe a little conspiratorial, but have you heard the theory about, so the rioting and, we've all seen the pallets of bricks that mysteriously appear places, and we've seen this is the Antifa guy instigating everything and yada yada. Are you aware of a conspiracy where they would say, okay, well, this is sort of a coordinated effort to try to bait Trump into going overboard on we're going to call in the tanks and stuff, and we're going to mow everybody down and everything. And there'll be a big bloodbath somewhere,
I wouldn't put it past them.
Minneapolis, St. Louis, Seattle, Portland, wherever. And so now what they've got is bodies in the streets and stuff. And, here was a 20-year-old, passionate college kid just trying to protest, and he gets mowed down, standing up for what he believes in. And now, you're able to, you got all this news coverage of it and everything. And now suddenly, now the next level of whatever the ramp up is justified because they had all this enormous kind of authoritarian military response to quote unquote peaceful protesting.
There's that side of it. There's a video that I saw that I want to forward to you guys. I don't know if it's really good for the podcast because it does get fairly conspiratorial about how George Soros is up here, and then it's the Clintons, then it's Antifa, then it's Black Lives Matter, and then it's the media, and how it all kind of creates this hierarchy.
Yeah, there's this symbiosis between everybody that.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's something I found in Spirit Lake the other day.
Is that a pallet of bricks?
Yeah. It was by Spencer's Underground as you're coming into town there.
Really? It's right out there on Hill Avenue, huh?
Yeah,
right up there on Hill.
Oh boy!
Get ready to throw it at the courthouse across the street.
I know.
That's pretty scary, man.
Lives matter.
Yeah.
Well, the Spencer protest went off without a hitch, to my knowledge, right?
Right here.
Yep.
That's fine. By all means, protest, but do not block traffic and do not be violent.
Don't loot.
Right.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Oh yeah. This is juicy. I mean, this could I think this is deserving almost of its own podcast by itself. Yeah, I mean, we could probably do a series just on this. Does anybody want to hear from a celebrity at this juncture? Name me a person, who wants Jesse from Breaking Bad's take on black people. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's so vapid and kind of devoid of any sort of anything that, it's hard to put into words.
Ability.
I take responsibility.
Oh yeah, real serious.
Responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not so funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality.
So maybe it's just because I haven't worked at the theater for quite a while, but like I've recognized maybe 2 people so far.
Yeah, I have no idea who these people are.
Yeah. I
Who
mean, I know
explains away police brutality?
Explain it away.
Yeah.
The most right-wing people I know would not explain away police brutality.
Yeah, seriously.
Or turned a blind eye.
I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These
By other black people.
Slaughtered
By other black people.
No, it's just the cops, Kevin. It's just
Yeah.
the police. And you can't even go for a jog
Jogging while black.
without getting shot.
are our brothers and sisters, our friends, our family. We are done watching them die. We are no longer bystanders. We will not be idle. Enough is enough.
I will no longer allow an unchecked moment. I will no longer allow racist, hurtful words, jokes, stereotypes, no matter how big or small, to be uttered in my presence.
I
Racist
will not
jokes?
turn.
Is that what he said? He will
Yeah,
not allow
racist
racist
jokes or
jokes.
stereotypes.
First of all, racist jokes are sometimes funny, but racial stereotypes are hilarious. Like white racial stereotypes are great.
Well, I wonder if that blanket rule that he just created would apply to, somebody making fun of, a Karen in Wisconsin or whatever, talking about her casserole, don't you know? Do you think that would fly, or is he just talking about 1 or 2 sets of persons or something?
I bet that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
We all know the answer to that.
Oh yeah.
Play by 1 set of.
Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home should not be a death sentence.
Playing video games with your nephew should not be a death sentence.
Shopping in a store should not be a death sentence. Business as usual should not be life-threatening. I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
Does that even need to be said?
No.
I stand against hate. Murder is bad, you guys. I'm against crime. God,
so
what a bunch of heroes. Jeez.
God.
Who takes this stuff seriously? Like who thought it would be a good idea to do this?
Yeah, I have no idea. But, they got their piano music playing in the background, and it's in black and white, so, they're real serious, right?
I want to look at the top comments once we're through it.
I stand against hate.
I will stand against hate in love. I will make my presence known.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers. We can turn the tide. It is time to take.
So can you name me an example of a cop who murdered somebody that got off the hook?
That's what I was just going to say. No one is making the argument that murderous cops shouldn't be prosecuted.
This is a fantastic exercise in straw men.
Well, you guys are familiar with I think it was maybe in one of the Carolina states, but there was a cop who shot a black guy, and the guy was like elderly, and he was kind of running away from him or something. The cop shot him in the back, and then I guess put a gun or drugs or something like on the guy and tried to argue he, had my taser or he had the gun or something. But it was all on video. Are you familiar with this case? I can't remember the guy's name, but guess what? That cop is in jail right now.
I guess the system works.
Yeah, I was just going to say, who would have thought?
and maybe there's something to the argument of but for the camera being there, it would have not happened like that. But we don't know that either.
Right.
So,
responsibility. Call out hate. Step up and take action.
It's pretty subjective to call out hate. Like, that's this whole idea of like hate speech and hate crimes. It's pretty subjective.
They did exactly what they were trained to do in this video, which is act.
Bunch of actors.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Everybody go to itakeresponsibility.org and confess your sins.
Hollywood stars have partnered with the NAACP for I Take Responsibility PSA, addressing unchecked racism.
First comment.
This is why these clueless fakes are called actors. Jesse Pinkman wins the Academy Cringe Award. I think that's what he means.
What's the like to dislike ratio?
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah, he's getting ratioed hard. Wow. Look at that.
Good.
Well,
less than half a thousand.
So, okay, let's say even if you were a person who bit into every bit of the narrative about police brutality and racist cops and everything, would you feel like, bolstered by this, or would you just feel patronized? Because I feel like it'd be the latter. I mean, I wouldn't want to hear from a bunch of celebrities preaching from their mansions and stuff about how they're going to take a stand and whatever. I mean, it's just, there's no substance to it.
Yeah.
What you just said there gets into, in my mind, a larger issue of like affirmative action types of things, where if I was a black person and I got into a prestigious college, university due to affirmative action, I would not be proud of that, as opposed to if I just got in on my own merit.
Yeah, well, that's a whole another can of worms there.
Yep. Which we don't want to get into right
sanctioned.
now.
That's some at least would characterize that as sanctioned racial discrimination, right?
Yes, indeed.
Imagine is now the second cringiest thing celebrities have done in 2020. I take responsibility for clicking the dislike button. Well, let's do the remaining time talking about the Chaz.
Sure. The Chaz.
So what is the Chaz?
Oh, God. You are now leaving America on a cardboard side.
Yeah.
Lawfully gathering and expressing First Amendment rights, demanding we do better as a society, and providing true equity for communities of color.
Look at the size of that necklace. Like you see,
is not annoying. Terrorism.
Well, it's like a bunch of, I mean, those are like golf ball sized stones around it.
Patriotism.
There you go. The mayor of Seattle seemingly in support.
Yeah, I don't even care about what she said. Whatever.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy on the far right.
So he's, yeah.
Wizard?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got on like a fez hat or something. A mask.
So woke.
I guess some kind of weird.
Hey, question. Who's going to win this altercation? Female officer or bike lady?
Ooh.
Who would you take?
Is it fight to the death or just?
You have to be subdued.
Okay. I'd put my money on the officer, I guess.
Probably
taser training,
Yeah.
Probably, maybe she got a billy club. I don't know. Can you use billy club still or not?
I don't think so.
Port of the cop-free occupied zone in the middle of her city as reports flood in of extortion and violence in that area.
Right. So is the left actually endorsing the anarchy? Joining us now, host of Reality Check on Fox Nation, David Webb.
Boy, they had a lot of
resistance here right
there.
now because we are in desperate.
So the Chaz, what is the Chaz? Something authorized zone?
Capitol Hill off.
There you go.
Capitol Hill autonomous zone, right?
Autonomous zone, yes.
Yeah.
So you can do whatever you want.
And it's an area of downtown Seattle, I guess, that has been taken over. And I guess they have a border established, maybe? I don't...
A few blocks, yeah.
Yeah.
I just learned about this the other day.
You know, I guess... Yeah.
Walls actually work?
Yeah. Well, that was one of the lines of thinking that, they put up a border. Oh, they had like an armed patrol keeping people out, like stuff like that. Oh, funny, walls work and so do guns, Now, I guess
sharing tents.
Yeah, I guess I'm not like... I guess I don't want to put a super ton of stock in Fox News's coverage of the Chaz, like whether or not it's, fair and accurate. I mean, I think Fox News can be guilty of hyperbole, just like other outfits. But
I mean, just think of the facts, though. You have a square or a few city blocks taken over by radical leftists. I mean, you don't need Fox to tell you what that's going to be like.
True, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know to the extent that the guns thing has been verified, and whether or not they're keeping people out or what. I mean, there's been a whole lot of stuff on Twitter, which I can't necessarily verify. Hard to say.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're exactly right, though. That sidesteps the point of, are we willing to tolerate somebody just literally taking over a space and setting up camp in a downtown area,
Think about those businesses that have front doors next to the Chaz.
What if you live in there?
Yeah.
You're just supposed to walk through all this mumbo jumbo to...
poop on the streets.
Who knows what's going on? Yeah.
Freaking mayors that let this happen. Like, grow some spine. Take control of your city, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Oh, this is democracy in action.
Ugh.
This is terrorism is what it is.
Can you see something like this happening around here?
Oh,
Chaz. Chaz on Library Square.
Yeah.
They'll take over Library Square.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be a little difficult. Good grief. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I guess
don't try and defend him, Jeff.
Well, I want to play devil's advocate as much as I can, at least, from the standpoint of if it's a peaceful protest and they're abiding by laws in place and the reasonable, time and place restrictions and stuff on free speech or what, First Amendment restrictions and that kind of thing. Like, I don't think that's necessarily happening. I think that it's probably running afoul of some of that stuff. I can't imagine that just blocking off streets without a permit or whatever is going to fly. But to the extent that they're like within their bounds there, I don't have a problem with it. But
sure.
But it's still funny and we can make fun of it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm trying to be as charitable as I possibly can.
You're a bigger man than I.
But it would be I would be lying if I said I wouldn't be extremely tempted if were I the mayor to come in there with a big giant broom and sweep them all out of there. I mean, it's insanity. And I'm surprised maybe there is a whole lot of hue and cry out of residents in that area, but I don't know if anybody cares. That's the other problem. I mean, if nobody's making a stink about it in Seattle, then whatever, just cede the territory apparently. But
I guess. Yeah, it depends on whose businesses and lives it's impacting.
If it's no longer part of the USA, then they don't need to, they can set up their own taxes. They can establish their own medical tent or whatever.
How successful would that be, do you think?
Kidding me? They couldn't. I mean, they'd have to get a passport to leave the Chaz.
Tim Pool was making fun of it the other day on his live stream, and they were looking at this garden at the Chaz, and they think that these people brought in like bags of dirt and just threw it down over the grass and tried to grow a garden on top of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was thinking about this, about the Chaz earlier today when I was out in Fort Defiance.
As one does.
Yeah, as one does. When I was out at Fort Defiance. And I was thinking, okay, you know, the amount of acres out here that are quote unquote within Fort Defiance Park, I think it includes the ravine area and the road, but I think it also goes further to the south and includes some of that pasture farmland area.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, if you were to set up a Chaz in Fort Defiance, say, for example, how many people would that geographical area be able to support? From, you know, in terms of like, how much food could you grow, and you know,
yeah,
how much deer could you shoot and stuff, and like the number would not be big. I'm telling you.
No, I
right
bet
now.
I bet it'd be less than. I bet it'd be less than 30.
It'd be tough sledding, man. Seriously. I mean, like, you could only shoot so many deer going through there, and you could only grow so much food that you wouldn't burn through in short order. I mean...
You'd have to seize control of the shelter house, too.
Yeah, right. You seize the means of production, you know, everybody works for the common good around there. And
commune.
Yeah. I mean, it could probably work, you know, if the numbers were just tweaked perfectly.
Yeah.
I guess if you kept it up long enough, you'd come to some equilibrium there, but you know.
Sure.
Well, you'd have to, I mean, in downtown Seattle, you'd have to find your own source of water. Can't use Seattle's because you're no longer part of the USA.
And invent electricity.
Invent electricity, yeah.
Oh, some of the comments I saw on that were like hilarious. It's like, just turn off the Wi-Fi, the whole thing will blow up in 2 hours.
We can't tweet anymore.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, do you guys think it is just a bunch of dorks like living out this Bolshevik fantasy kind of thing?
Yes.
Or, I mean, what is this really?
It'll be done in 2 weeks when, I don't know, you need to go back to mom's house and shower.
Right. They ran out of frozen veggie burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, get it out of their system anyway, so they don't have to throw it down or stuff it down the country's throat.
Yeah.
They tried it; it failed for them. Can we move on now?
Yeah.
Well,
all right, boys. I gotta go. This
all right,
is too-
fellas.
This felt good. It was very cleansing.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. We need this catharsis every so often.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Oh, here's concealed carry qualifications for those who want to be
Yeah,
in the
that's-
know.
That's not a bad idea.
You're gonna need it.
Get strapped.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Later.
guys. We'll I'll get this uploaded and we'll make a plan for next week.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Yeah.